Should you use the property manager that comes with your turnkey rental property? So in a turnkey setup, at least when you're buying from the turnkey providers, your property comes fully rehabbed with tenants in it, hopefully, and property managers set up to manage the property for you. Well, that all sounds great and gravy, but one challenge with that is turnkey property managers have a bit of a reputation of maybe not being the best. So what do you do about it? The big thing to know more than anything else, and this is not saying you should do it, is when you buy a turnkey rental property, it is your property. You have the option to do whatever you want. You don't have to take the property manager that comes with it. You can fire them, you can hire a new one, you can live in the property for all you care, you can landlord it yourself. It is your property. You're not agreeing to anything. You get to make the decision. So that's very important to know. So with that said, the ability for you to make the decisions, should you necessarily assume the property manager that comes with the property? Two things about this. Number one, do your due diligence on that property manager just as if you were hiring a brand new one. So like if you were going non-turnkey and you were buying a house to, you're hiring the agent, the contractor, all of the different components, when it came time to hire the property manager, most likely you would call up a few different property managers, talk to all of them, interview all of them, get all of their prices, compare, contrast, and you would decide of those property managers who you feel the best about, and you would hire that property manager. I recommend you do the same with turnkeys. And it happens to be that the property manager that comes with the turnkey is one of the ones that you interview. Because again, I've seen over the years a lot of people kind of fall victim, if you will, and to no wrong of their own. Like most people didn't know they had this option, but they kind of fall victim to it's like, oh, well, the property came with this property manager, and then that property manager isn't that great. Woe was me. Well, you have more options and you have more control. So you should only agree to take that property manager if in interviewing a few different property managers or after interviewing them or whatever your due diligence level is, you feel really good about them. Make sure you feel good about them before you just naively say, okay. With that said, however, that is ultimately what I recommend. I definitely recommend everyone do that level of due diligence to make sure that you're not just naively signing up for whatever property manager. However, I do have a recommendation that typically covers most situations. And the reason that I have this is because even if the property managers that come with the turnkey companies aren't great, they aren't usually the worst either. And they might be fine. And what they may be great for one person and not for another. Because they have a reputation and because they manage so many properties coming specifically from this turnkey provider, like if they were that bad, that turnkey provider would probably not work with them. So there's a certain level of inherent merit, if you will. Again, not to say that that necessarily makes them fantastic or that you should stick with them all of a sudden, but there is a little bit of inherent merit that you need to make sure you consider in the sense of, here's what I recommend to people. Should you use the property manager that comes with your turnkey rental property? My recommendation is to, unless you have some blatant reason not to do this, I recommend starting with the property manager that comes with the property for one and a half reasons. The main reason being because most turnkey properties come with some level of scope of work warranty. Some even come with rental guarantees, but there's some level of warranty. So like, you get this freshly rehabbed house and let's say your scope of work warranty is 90 days or 6 months or a year. If something goes wrong with that house that should have been covered in the scope of work with the rehab, the provider will fix that for free. That is contingent on you using their property manager. If you don't use their property manager, your scope of work warranties are nil. They go away because they're not going to keep that warranty going when they don't really know who's managing your property. They don't know what's happening with the property. But when you use the property managers that they gave you, they have some checks and balances there. So the warranty stays valid. So again, if you decide to use your own property manager, you're most likely going to void all of the warranties that you're given, which is huge. So I would say that like if the property manager was that bad, those warranties are not worth, going to a better provider. But again, kind of that inherent merit type of thing is I don't think they're going to be so bad that they cost you more than the warranty could save you, for example. So what I recommend to people is do your due diligence. If you have a suspicion that you don't like, wait a minute, I told you there was 1.5 reasons to stick with that property manager, and I forgot the half reason. So let me backtrack. The big reason being the possible voiding of all, well, not possible, you will void all of the warranties and guarantees you're given if you use your own property manager. The smaller reason that I say to stick with it is that unless you've worked with this turnkey provider before, you don't totally know that you're going to hate the property manager. You know, people online talk, you know, who's had a really terrible experience. There's also people who have had really great experiences. This goes for everything in life. I've worked with professionals that I have a terrible time working with, and other people love them. So you don't really know yet, usually, that they're going to be that terrible. So that's kind of the smaller reason, is you want to like give them a chance kind of thing. Not a big chance, because, you know, ultimately your investment's at risk. But I recommend staying with the property manager, at least to keep your warranties valid, and just to double check that you don't like them. So what I do recommend of how to navigate that, right? Because you don't want to stick with a bad property manager for too long. So my recommendation usually, again, assuming that there's not some major blatant reason not to go with the property manager that comes with them, is plan to stick with that property manager for the duration of the warranty. And during that time, if you're not enjoying your experience, go ahead and start making plans of finding a new one. You can go ahead and start interviewing other ones. You can go ahead and have conversations with them. All the while, you keep the same property manager, the warranties stayed valid. And then the minute the warranties drop off, if you want, you can go ahead and switch. So ultimately, that's my recommendation. Is it's a two-parter. Absolutely, hands down, do your due diligence like you would any other property. And in that, you can choose to work with another property manager. If I were to give my suggestion, in most of the cases, I would say start with the one that it comes with in order to keep your warranties and guarantees valid, and see what your experience is. And if you begin to not like them, you know, keep an eye on things, see how things are going. How's the communication? Are you getting the rent payments on time? All of that kind of, or deposits on time, all of that kind of stuff. And if you're not, use that time, the warranty time, to start finding your new property manager. And again, always know you're in control of this property. So you can literally fire a property manager. And yeah, I realize property manager agreements will have you like sign up for a year or whatever. I've never had a property manager contest me on that. Chances are, if I'm not liking working with them, they're probably not liking working with me either. So I've, not to say it couldn't happen, but I've never heard of a property manager company forcing you to stay with them. So keep an eye on the contract kind of thing, but you are in control of this property. And just because you're buying it turnkey and it comes with a property manager, you are not required to do anything. You can do whatever you want. So try and do it smartly. If that, is that even a word? I don't know.